would like to kick off this event by telling you about the topics in Mediamorphosis. Mediamorphosis is a project that was born to try to help us understand this huge wave of change that we are seeing in media and try to see where we stand. And also for speakers, I would like to know how many of you come from the audiovisual or TV environment. How many of you? Okay, raise your hands. How many of you come from the radio sector? Only a few. And how about filmmaking? Students? Advertising? Okay, some people belong to more than one sector. We have a heterogeneous community, and I believe it is very important to start giving an introduction about what transmedia means. What is Mediamorphosis? Mediamorphosis is this, what I'm precisely mentioning. It's changes in the media. And let us talk about some basic notions so that we are on the same page. Who doesn't know what transmedia is? All of you know what transmedia is. Okay, so we have an expert audience here, so I will not speak long about this. So we are facing a huge wave of change. The first wave happened only recently, and it has to do with connectivity, the possibility for all of us to be interconnected. This is a last wave of change in the media. The media have got us accustomed to different and new media like the press, cinema, theater, TV, radio, and now internet. Internet is something that we almost wear. It is a wearable thing, and we are interconnected through the internet. We are carrying it with us everywhere. So it has changed. It has revolutionized the way we communicate with each other. When we talk about transmedia, we mean contents, stories that we create, not only thinking about one platform. From the time, right from the start, we think about them as platforms so that viewers not only receive information, but also send information. There is exchange and engagement, and the participation of those people is very important with the prosumer. I'm going to show a small video, a simple video of content that we presented last year in Mediamorphosis for those of you who need to fully understand the concept. This is content that is created for multiple platforms. This is an example from Channel 4. The content was presented last year by Adam Gee, the scandal of British property. It is content for those of you who were here last year. It is a great example. In London, there is a problem, which is that there is more than 1 million empty homes and more than 2 million homeless people. So they created a TV program where they invite people to go out into the city and try to find those empty houses so that they will take a picture, and with geo-positioning, with GPS, they will identify those properties, and once the properties are located, they will match the families that are in need of a home. So they tell the stories of those empty houses and those homeless people. This is a specialist, and I'm using this as an example to understand how, based on the initial criterion of someone who had an idea, I'm not only producing content that the sender or the issuer is issuing. We are thinking about different platforms with people, with many different senders who send the information, and people themselves get engaged and create the map of the city. So this is an example for those of you who needed to understand this concept a little bit better. But the change in habits is a radical one. This is a graffiti on the street, and it shows that we are connected most of the time, and we need to be connected. And we start seeing this kind of images everywhere. It's a daily scene. You see it on the internet, in all TV programs. How about children? They are not paying attention. They are using the phones while they eat. This has changed our habits. And in Mediamorphosis, we're going to talk about habits. We're going to focus on human habits and how we, the creators of content, have to understand those habits. And we are interconnected today, and we depend on that connectivity. So I say that with connectivity, these scenes are permanent because that device is playing the role of antenna in humans. It is our sixth sense for humans. We perceive reality through our senses. We need taste, sight, and smell. And now we need connectivity to understand what's happening. If we don't have connectivity, things get complicated for us. So these antennas, we have developed them just recently in the history of humankind. We are the link in the history of humankind where this phenomenon is happening. We do not know how to manage it. We have these new antennas, these devices, and we are creating contents for that and stories for that man who drops a phone in the bathroom, for instance. So we need to think about this man. This man now has antenna and has wings. You know that 100 years ago, humankind evolved and started flying with planes, and now we have evolved and we have antennas. So to think about this, that is happening by the minute as we are speaking here, we think as we go. There is no Bible. We cannot go by the book because there are no books on this. Nobody is going to tell us how to solve it. So nobody knows quite well, so we invited smart people, people who have experience and who are doing things all over the world. And we are going to present also cases from Argentina. And these people are trying to create innovative contents. We have people from all over the world who have different views and have specific experiences to share with us. One of the focus areas is consumption habits. How do we talk to people? How do we address people who are consuming in a different way? That's why we have Dario Stanschraber. He's a philosopher. He approached philosophy in very simple terms for people to understand, on TV programs and on radio programs. He is going to help us think about the borders between humans and technology. Are there borders? Are there boundaries separating both? When we talked about his presentation with Dario, he told us that there is a very simple thing that changed, which is the concept of distance. People now have a different notion of distance. If I spend 1 hour talking with Paula, who's in London, preparing her talk, and she is with her kids at home cooking a meal, for instance, and I am on Skype, are we far from each other or are we close to each other? That concept has changed, and there are other notions that have changed in our human nature, and that's why Dario will be here with us. Paula Zuccotti. She's a friend. I'm very happy to have her here. We met with her. I met her at Power to the Pixel. She lives in London, and she is a specialist in the development of strategies. She studied at the public university, UBA, and I met her when Liz invited me to Power to the Pixel, and we talked about consumption habits. Paula tries to understand and research how people link or engage with different products. This is the so-called consumption anthropology, how we consume products, and based on that consumption, linking it with the consumption of media products, we will be able to understand the user. And the objective is that this focus that we are placing on understanding consumption habits will help us think about what's happening to people we are addressing. Hugo also accepted the invitation of coming here. He is the scheduling or programming manager at Channel 13. When I worked there, we said, okay, during the day we have the housewife, then in the afternoon the children come from school, and in the evening the husband comes. But now habits have changed. The landscape is completely different today, and that's why we have Paula and Daria with us to help us think about this. Then we will give you a proper introduction. So this wave of change is sweeping, and it reminds us when the cinema arrived and the Lumiere brothers invented this possibility of having light on the screens, and a new kind of media emerged. People were afraid or frightened by seeing the image of the train. They left the movie theater frightened about the train because they thought that they would be knocked down by the train. Now, there are things that make us afraid when we see this virtual reality now. It is a roller coaster of an experience. And then product managers and marketing people also are afraid because this will change the business metrics, and we don't know what direction it will take. It is also frightening for those who tell stories, because we have to learn about the new ways of storytelling.
For that, our second focus is going to be virtual reality. We're going to try to understand this new wave that's approaching us. It's coming soon. That's virtual reality. It's a new environment. Thanks to the people from Collateral, you'll be able to live that experience, being within the story. This is the cover of Time magazine for this month. Understanding that the subject is the camera. In this new medium where you wear a helmet, you have the eyesight and your hearing involved, and you are immersed in a reality. And that reality implies a different way of telling a story, a new world of possibilities. Everything that was filmed and recorded of all the contents out there are not useful for this. This has to be done from scratch. The director cannot be on the scene because he would be seen because it's a 360-degree camera. So for this, we have experts. Oscar Rabi, who's on his way here. He's an artist, a multimedia artist, who uses virtual reality to tell his stories. He did a very famous documentary that was showed at IFA, Sundance, at Sheffield Festival in Great Britain, where he got the Audience Award. He works in Australia, but he's Chilean. And the story of his documentary is very interesting. I met him through Paula. It's an immersive story. He's going to tell a story. It's an artistic installation. It's not a story, actually. It's not a narrative, actually, but he will tell us this in person. And he will tell us how to approach virtual reality. For people in the filmmaking business, you will be able to explore similar roads. Maybe you will be able to decide whether to stay where we are or move to this new arena. Mr. Atkin, who's a British person, he's an independent producer who was commissioned by the BBC in Channel 4. And he works for several international networks. He was a multi-platform delegate producer for Channel 4 United Kingdom, and he's the director for the Sheffield Documentary Festival in Great Britain. He's one of the festivals where there are the most interesting innovations worldwide. Mark is going to talk about what happened with the digital revolution. Was it just a noise, or is it remarkable change that has come to stay? Is the TV departing from multi-platform, or are we witnessing a revolution that's going to affect everyone working in the means of communication arena? Thank you all to our guest speakers for being here. I'm going to show you something about virtual reality for you to understand this a bit more. We are going to look at some exploratory cases of virtual reality, which I will share with you in a moment. Some interesting things have been developed lately. We're going to see the case of a Swedish movie. It's done with virtual reality. I'm mentioning this just for you to understand in this chapter that I'm going to play now some experiences happening around the world about different ways of telling stories. There are different ways of telling stories, and virtual reality starts by opening experiences on different roads. What you're going to see now is a movie that was filmed in March, where 5 people of a family meet for dinner, where the son brings his girlfriend who has food disorders, and she looks at her plate with her own camera, and she sees little food on the plate, whereas the mother of this family, through her camera, sees a lot of food on this girl's plate. So this is a story told, is a narrative. This is to be seen with virtual reality helmets, and each one can choose from what point of view to watch the movie. This was done with a very small budget. These are GoPro cameras and 5 helmets. This was done in virtual reality. As I said, it's not necessarily an expensive project. This is in an experimental stage. We are moving borders. We are looking and exploring different alternatives. It's quite interesting, this thing of virtual reality. And now I'm going to show you another experiment, a very interesting one, by a Catalan group. They use virtual reality to try and understand what it feels to be in someone else's body. This Catalan group carried out this experiment. We are going to try and think what it would be like to tell a story by using these tools. This is a twin experience where someone wears a virtual reality helmet and someone beside this person copies the movements of the other person. And the purpose of this group is to help us all feel what it feels like to be in someone else's body. So the boy sees his body as a feminine, or as a female body, sorry. What will storytelling be like in virtual reality? It is important for us to know that in a few months' time, these helmets will go for sale massively, and these probably will replace the PlayStation. So we will have the virtual reality helmets at home. And you can go to maybe Best Buy and buy drones. This is how these tools will come to us. They wanted to test what it felt like to be disabled, someone who couldn't walk, for example. Someone tried to live the experience of walking. It's very interesting, this machine of being someone else. So the question is, with these new tools that are arriving in our homes, with these new tools and waves that are arriving and will continue to arrive, what will storytelling be like? Marcelo Piñeiro, the director of Kamchatka and Tango Feroz, the executive producer of The Official Story, Juan Taratuto is going to be here as well, the director of No Sos Vos Soy Yo, Gustavo Cova, director of Gaturo, de Los Creadores, which is a series on Telefe. Film directors, how will they change? How does the trade change with these new storytelling techniques? The video gaming industry will hire Del Toro or Aquaron or Spielberg to make video gaming content. So what it will be like for film directors to adapt to these new platforms and tell these new tools for telling stories. And for this, we will invite Adam Siegel, who will be our next speaker. Adam comes from Hollywood. He comes from LA, and he will share with us the point of view and the way of thinking in Hollywood. He's a producer and a screenwriter. He works for the TV, for the cinema, for games, for mobiles. He's producing Rebook, which is a web series, an action series with John Woo. He was Steven Spielberg's consultant for electronic arts gaming creation, for video games development for Disney. He's developed content for Fox and Columbia. So after I conclude, he will come to the front. And David Varela also is a writer and producer from Great Britain. He develops interactive projects that join drama, video, TV. He wrote Sherlock, the network for mobile phones, based on the Sherlock series. And he's going to share with us what it is like to write content for the extension of the content beyond the TV screen, using the Sherlock series, this project on which he worked, as an example. And we are going to look at some other experiences. There are other immersive helmets doing experiments, like Microsoft's Hololens. The video gaming industry is experiencing and developing things which may be very interesting for us storytellers. And also the medical industry, just like the video gaming industry, is developing experiments. And with this HoloLens, we will see these are a bit different from the others. These are samples of what is being prepared. Microsoft bought the Minecraft license, that game that children play on the computer. It's a building or construction game. This mixed reality lens, it's not a virtual reality lens or not augmented reality, but it's a mixed reality because they relate to the surrounding reality. Unlike Oculus, where you isolate yourself from reality, these instead work with reality and relate with what's in the actual physical or real physical space. And the medical industry is also experimenting with these lenses. Rather than having to use bodies of people, real bodies of people, and corpses to learn and study virtual reality, they expect it to be used to be able to study also as a group. This experiment will be shared, and this experience will be able to be shared by a group of people who will be learning at the same time. It's interesting to take all these learnings from the industry. The investments in the medical industry are very high, much more than in the filmmaking industry. So we could see and explore how these tools can help us tell stories. And there is another industry that's a very powerful one and controversial, which is the pornography industry. They develop experiences that are very interesting, and they have very interesting tools for the narrative. It's a very powerful tool because sexual desire urges people to swipe their credit card quickly. So I apologize if there are highly sensitive people, but we are going to look at interesting experiences and trying to think how we can take things from this industry for our storytelling of the future, how we can use these tools from this industry. We're going to look at a very simple tool which creates or produces vibrations. It enables a couple who's at a distance to create vibrations to the other individual. It's very normal today for any person who goes away to be in touch with his partner through Skype, to use the sound and the eyesight to engage in an erotic dialogue with their partner. What this adds is the feeling and the touch. So that's what this industry is investigating, and which is highly interesting. This gadget which looks very simple, creates vibrations. Someone else from a remote location can create vibrations on the other person as much as you want and for as long as you want. You can look at the other person, talk to the other person, and create physical experiences. They are creating artifacts that enable a person to penetrate another person from a distance, to penetrate or to be penetrated, to touch the other person. The virtual reality game in pornography is making a lot of headway because there are funds, financial funds. Much of this is on the internet. These people are engaged in pornographic virtual reality. It looks as if it's great. They are having great experiences. There are more strange things in Oriental or Eastern countries which are quite curious for feeling and transforming and playing with the different senses. And what you're going to see at the end is a glove that is in the prototype stage, which enables you to have temperature and tactile sensations. It enables a person to feel that they are touching someone at a distance, or that they are close to the fire, or that they can feel the rain in their hands. Why am I telling you this? Imagine that tomorrow you are creating a product. Imagine that, for example, in a movie, you are the directors, and you can pick and choose that the main character or the star can stroke you, or that a mother can stroke a child. So the industry is experiencing and experimenting with different tools, and sooner than later, these tools will be here with us. The wave continues, and one of the industries that we want to analyze and study is radio. Radio seems to be dying. When the soap operas that were played on the radio disappeared, and today it's as lively as ever in our mobile phones. And Lalo Mir, Sebastián Wanreich, and Julio Leiva is going to come. Julio Leiva comes from Vorterix. They're going to come and share their experiences with us regarding the future of the radio. Today, we spent an hour and a half to travel to different places in the car or on the bus. So we listen to the radio when we are on the computer. So the concept of the audio is very lively today. The same is happening with television. Television is changing. It's changing radically in terms of their audiences. It starts playing with second screens. The way in which TV is being used is changing. But it is the medium par excellence with the highest turnover. If there is a live element, that's the place where we go to. And we have Diego Gebel to talk about TV. He was my boss at La TV Ataca. He's an innovative person. He was a creator of CQC or CQC, which exported its content worldwide. He's a content manager of Bandeirantes, the third largest TV network in Brazil. He's going to come to talk to us about the future of TV, of television, and where the TV business is going. So we're going to have a deep discussion with Diego about the future of television. And we're going to talk about journalism. We're going to talk about the change in reading habits and how news and information circulates in a different way. And Guillermo Rivaben is going to come to talk about the change of Diario La Nación newspaper. He's the general manager of La Nación newspaper. This man has been imported to the information industry. He comes from the mobile world. He's the general manager. He has come to La Nación to create a major change, which can already be seen. This is a traditional and uncomfortable to read newspaper, which is undergoing a deep transformation into the digital era. It has the paper version, it has a magazine, and it has the web portal, it has live elements, and it will be very interesting for us to analyze how the structure of that newspaper is changing. There is a big change in the labor culture. It will happen to us in our jobs that deep cultural changes will need to take place. So Guillermo is going to talk about the cultural, economic, and structural change that La Nación newspaper is undergoing at present. We are going to talk about advertising. This is an example. Remember Red Bull and throwing this man through the stratosphere? Okay, we are going to have a table moderated by my friend Sergio Piasek. This table is going to be composed of Diego Luque and Nicolás Pimentel. Diego is going to talk about the advertising, the future of advertising, and Nicolás is another innovative person in the advertising arena. We're going to look at concrete cases of production and multi-platform and transmedia content and how the advertising arena is talking about this new audience that's constantly changing. And finally, at Mediamorfosis, we're going to have a panel devoted to education. And Pablo Aristizabal is going to talk to us about that. He has a content called Los Creadores. He has just created Aula 365. He has a TV program on Saturdays and Sundays in the morning. He works with knowledge, and he has a theme park at Technopolis. He works with virtual reality. He was educated at a public school, and he comes from the private sector and works with education and knowledge. And we're also going to have Natalie Sheckman, who comes from the public sector, from public education. Natalie has come to share with us how the public television, or Encuentro, is thinking about the convergence of media convergence. She's going to present a case, Primal, which was created with the National Film Board of Canada. It's a very interesting interactive case that was produced at Encuentro channel. Finally, we're going to have a contest. As I said earlier, this contest is going to choose an Argentine case that's going to win a first prize and then a second prize to go to the festival called Power to the Pixel, led by Mrs. Rosenthal, to push the innovative industry in Argentina, the innovation industry in Argentina. So together with Power to the Pixel and Inca, we're going to select among 5 cases of 70 applicants. This is going to be tomorrow morning. It's a very interesting case. I highly recommend it. It's a jury of international experts are going to receive a 7-minute pitch of 5 cases. 5 Argentine cases, totally different. They will need to be presented in 7 minutes. They will need to tell us about their experiment, and they're going to be curated. There's going to be some feedback given to them, and it's going to be highly valuable for us to understand what our colleagues did well and what they did wrong. These 5 cases are very interesting. One is a documentary, a web documentary called Puja. It's an interactive documentary devoted to the promotion of non-violent birth, fight against obstetric violence. It's from an interdisciplinary collective group. They have a photographic installation and a documentary. Then there's another case called Los Exploradores. Los Exploradores brings children's content. It's a story of a group of children who are explorers. They live adventures, but the interesting thing of this case is is that they started the story through a board game. It's a board game that enables many children to play this game with one tablet. It's a board game and a tablet. So what happens when there are 5 children and one tablet? They fight. So they play through the tablet as a result of different penalties that they earn during the game. And then there's a fiction story. It's an investigative about an assassination. There's the point of view of the assassin and the point of view of the investigator, and the people can have an active participation in the content. And then there's Krakatoa, which is an animated children's content where a group of children create a musical band that goes through the different platforms. These 5 projects are going to be presented tomorrow morning. So for half an hour, we're going to have 7 minutes of pitching and a 15-minute feedback. And at the end of the day, the jury, together with Inca and the British Council, are going to choose the Argentine case that's going to go with the Argentine delegation traveling to Power to the Pixel, because this year Power to the Pixel and the British Council and Inca have created an Argentine delegation. There are Argentine cases being selected in London, and there's an Argentine case being selected here at Mediamorfosis. And the second prize, we're going to go with a delegation also participating in Power to the Pixel. For that, we have Liz Rosenthal. She's the director of Power to the Pixel. As I said earlier, she's a person who has helped me a lot to curate and create this Mediamorfosis space. She has helped me to think and develop this contest. Liz is going to deliver a speech telling us how to create a prototype of cultural identity to roll it out worldwide. And finally, the purpose of Mediamorphosis is to take away an idea. If all these snapshot of reality, it's a snapshot because there's lots of possibilities out there. It's one point of view. So if we can take away one idea, and if anyone here is inspired and gets excited about opening up new roads for a new story, we will be more than happy. And this wave that's changing things, moving things from one place to the other, and moving the media, and that's pushing media, some media to one side, we shouldn't be afraid of it, because sometimes things are taken to an unknown place by a tsunami, and maybe this new place is not a bad place. Maybe the changes are not for the worse. Sometimes new contexts create new sensations, new experiences, and new places that may be very interesting. So finally, I invite you to share Mediamorphosis. Adam Siegel is going to come to the lectern. I would like to welcome you and have a smashing time.